Hello, everybody. How's it going? Nice to see everybody here for the SKALE AMA.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SKALE's March AMA. And for those who are new to the community, we do these once a month with members from our core team to address all your SKALE questions. So today we are here with SKALE Labs co-founder, CEO, Jack O'Holleran, and co-founder and CTO, Stan Kladko. And Jack, before we dive into questions, it would be great if you could give a SKALE State of the Union address, highlighting SKALE's current state and what the community can look forward to.
All right, awesome. So we're going to take a little different format with these from now on, and whoever is handling the AMA, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Stan, sometimes it's other people on the core team. We're going to give almost an executive summary. There's so many things happening now, okay? And also, let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this. So we do these, and SKALE is a decentralized project. There are now so many people every day working on SKALE. Our job as a core team is really not to drive and control actions, but to make sure everyone is coordinated and that there's transparency about everything that's happening, okay? So we're here today to help share the status of SKALE and talk about initiatives, challenges, successes, et cetera. And also just make sure we're answering questions that you have in the community. Okay, so first and foremost, I just want to say we have more momentum than we have ever had, okay? And it's, hearing these things in crazy market conditions, it's probably strange to hear that, but we don't think about the market. We think about SKALE as a functional network. We think about the developers we work with every day. We think about the community running servers. We think about everybody that's involved, and there's more momentum than we've ever had. Right now, let me look at this for a second. We've crossed 61 million transactions on the network, okay, since last June. That's amazing. All right, so the network has been growing fast. On a monthly basis, SKALE has 1/6 of the total volume of all transactions, layer 2 transactions for Ethereum, okay? Whether we're a layer 2 or not, I think is always up for debate for the layer 2 purists, but regardless, we have 1/6 of the total transaction volume, and we're proud of that, okay? And I think a lot of people in the community should be proud of that. All right, so getting into the update, one thing I want to say is these bear market conditions, these cycles are always part of any industry. And in crypto, we feel them more than others, but they actually can be negative. They also bring positive elements. One positive element is that the core team and many of the people across the project in the community and developer community, validator community, delegator community, we took an account of how can we improve? How can we get better? What do we need to do better over the next year? And the three things three kind of key components, and by the way, there's many things that I think every project has to improve on, but to really improve, it's good to dial in. One is awareness. We have 1/6 of the total volume of transactions on layer 2 transactions for Ethereum, but we don't have 1/6 of the awareness. When we finally get to people and we get to tell the story of how SKALE works, people's minds are blown because they think of SKALE, oh, it's just a side chain. They don't realize it's this whole pooled security network that now is folding into this layer 3 narrative, and other people are building what we've already built and calling it something different. And so we need to get out in front and be leading the narrative. And so we're doing a lot of things to make that happen. The other is we just need to keep growing the dApps in quantity that are on SKALE and the amount of users. And we need to do that by making it easier, faster, smoother, quicker to deploy, easier, quicker, faster, smoother to use SKALE as an end user. The last piece is interoperability. Because SKALE's multi-chain, there's so many chains in the network, it makes it difficult for partner ecosystem products on the mainnet who are used to servicing one chain to just port over and service SKALE. So we've done a lot of things to make SKALE more connected and interoperable to applications in the Ethereum ecosystem and tooling and products, okay? Now, each chain is obviously instantly applicable, but how do you make a network more applicable? We're doing cool things to make that happen. So again, a lot of people came together to come up with this, but some examples of things that are happening are one, there's an updated decentralized community go-to-market strategy. How do we go to market better in terms of both a core team and extended community to get more deals, more dApps, more awareness, more growth. So there's been a whole reshuffling of how that functions, and it's been up and running since December, and there's a lot of great results I'll share. We're updating the product marketing. So as we see crypto moves fast, we've been building the same thing with this vision for a long time. Now, other people are building something similar, calling it different things. So we have to get ahead of that and make sure Scale gets the credibility and first mover advantage it deserves. And part of that is product marketing. We need to call things the right names in the right manner so that we, can connect to our audience better. Okay. The other thing is just within the core team, which is separate from the project, we've reshuffled things and optimized the core team. The industry is moving fast. We also need to be perfect, adept, and connected to where the industry is going. So we made changes internally to be more effective. The other piece, implementation of Scale Hubs. So we have Scale Hubs live. That helps the interoperability. It helps the onboarding. And now there's the Europa Hub, which the Ruby team and many other builders are a part of on liquidity and DeFi. There's Nebula, which is a gaming hub. And there's some amazing game devs that have built Nebula. And lots of games are going to be deploying to that. They already are. There's Calypso, which is an NFT hub, and it's a place for NFT marketplaces to plug in a very seamless, unified manner. And then there is the Titan Hub, which is a community chain. So small dApps that can't afford to rent their own big dApp can just all go share this small chain, and they might, be all across the board, not gaming. They're in all these other categories. They can join Titan. Now, the other thing that happened is we're doing a lot more. We're trying to put more effort into events that are less just crypto, where you go and you see the same people, and go to events where the people are that we want to talk to, and like GDC, and Sydney's going to talk about that in a minute. So we're changing where we interface with people to get more impact for the project. The last piece, which Stan will be talking about later, is the Scale ZK initiative. We're really excited about that. That I think plugs us right into the narrative. It future-proofs Scale. And we don't have to change a lot of things. We just need to add things, which is what you want to do when you're looking at, infrastructure and product. Okay. All right. Getting into some key highlights. Number one, the network is averaging on a monthly basis 65,000 active users and wallets this year, 9 million transactions, and saving about 100 million in gas fees. So this is great. Scale 2. Next update, Scale 2.1 was just released, which was a huge update. Stan will talk about that later. For those that didn't see it, Dartmouth Blockchain took on a very intense research project. They worked with Solana and Polygon and Avalanche and Phantom and Ethereum, and they worked with all the core teams across these different networks, and they actually did on-chain testing. Scale was the fastest, had the most throughput of all the chains they tested, and the fastest finality. Scale's instant finality, so they did time to finality, time a transaction goes to average time something's executed. You can read about that in the Scale blog. As I mentioned earlier, Scale Hubs are live. The ZK initiative is underway. Let's see here. Last piece, two more pieces. One, we've really we're putting an initiative now into enterprise. Before, enterprises weren't moving. Traditional businesses were kind of kicking tires. That's starting to change. So now is time for us to really be looking upstream. And so the core team has brought in an enterprise team. The decentralized team is also, there are more partners and players coming together that have enterprise experience, just like I do and Stan and other people on our team. And so we're going to be focusing, we're not abandoning the developer, smaller project market, because that's a market that's going to grow faster. But we are putting about 20% of resource allocation into going upstream. We're excited about that. Last update before we move on-chain voting is going to commence in April. We as a core team, because of decentralization reasons, are not driving this, okay? And so I'm looking forward, and if we were, it would be done a long time ago, but look forward to things being pushed forward, hopefully in the next week or so, a proposal by one of the developers in the community who's talked to 50 people, and we'll be putting forth a proposal that's a consensus of a lot of people's thoughts and opinions on how voting should start. And then we'll have a first vote to essentially validate that voting plan. And if we can't validate the voting plan with the voting structure, then it's probably the wrong structure. So it will be it'll need to be ratified by a positive vote from the community. Anybody who holds Scale tokens and stake them will be able to vote. All right. Now, just want to say there's been some big wins lately. 0x Battleground, which is you'll see some footage of this online. This is a world-class game. It looks like a AAA game. It has an invisible blockchain experience that could only be supported by Scale. That the mini game has gone live, and the bigger game is going live later this year. Prospector's NFT or Voxelverse is now live. It's just amazing. It's on the Nebula Game Hub. Be on the lookout for Human Protocol. Good stuff happening there. Gamify has 700,000 downloads. The most popular cricket game in this tournament-based cricket game in India has gone live on Scale. We're really excited about them. They've got a world-class team, a bunch of really brilliant Ivy League founders who now have moved to Singapore and are launching this game and really servicing India and Southeast Asia with their it's like skills for Web3. I'm really excited about them. NFT Labs is getting kicked off, and they have some huge brands, like major global sports brands. I can't discuss what they are yet, but get ready, for that announcement. And Empire Gambit, which is actually an AI game. So it utilizes ChatGPT and a lot of AI products to integrate to the gameplay. The team behind Crypto Coliseum started that. That mini game that is in the process of going live. Keep your eyes open for that. From a partner perspective, or other wins too, XP Network has now gone live. Some other big games like Bullyverse, it's a top 30 game on Polygon. Primal, Warshmallows, Tank War Zone, Cryptoria, and more. Also Fireside, which Mark Cuban's company, which we've talked about a lot. The first NFTs have been minted. An amazing product what they're doing there with invisible NFT experiences. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna let Cindy talk a little bit about the events, or let Sydney talk a little bit about the events. But in closing, I just want to tell everybody, like, we're pumped, we're excited, and as always, these are my opinions. I don't have any crystal balls. I can't predict the future. I'm here not to give you guidance or any sort of advice, but really to share transparent information about what's happening and share our feelings about where we are. Sydney, do you want to talk a little bit about events? And then I'd like to also get Stan's thoughts on just kind of the project too, before we jump into questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jack. So this was actually my first time attending GDC. So this was the event that I was at last week. And I didn't really know what to expect, other than I knew it was the biggest gaming conference probably in the world. So was super excited to see what it was all about. However, I did hear that in past GDC conferences, any mention of Web3 or blockchain gaming was heavily frowned upon. So I was a bit nervous to see what we were going to get at the booth, if we were going to get trolls, questions, all that. So we were really prepared to handle it all, but it was quite the opposite experience. So everyone that I spoke to about Scale was genuinely curious about who we were and how we are supporting the future of Web3 gaming. So it's amazing to see this shift in Web2 gamers and how they're starting to explore Web3 gaming after all the years of just hesitation around it. And the US Scale team is scattered around the country. So it was great to be on the ground with everyone and see everyone in person and bond. So nothing but it was a huge success and very positive. And the Scale booth looked awesome. It was super eye-catching. You couldn't miss it. But Jack, I'm curious to hear more about your thoughts as well, because you were at both of these conferences, GDC and Outer Edge. So just wanted to get your perspective on, speaking to the mass audiences and whatnot. So,
yeah, I mean, I just want to say, I think we left absolutely invigorated. And part of that is we've spent a lot of time, all of you that follow the project, you see Scale is usually, front and center, main sponsor for all of the big ETH hackathons and big ETH events. And these are great. We're still going to be doing those, but we're going to be doing less of them. and doing more non-crypto events. So when we are there at more mainstream events, we're meeting all of these businesses and builders that want to utilize NFTs and utilize blockchains and smart contracts. And GDC was a great example. I think we have met over 200 games that are looking at deploying Web3 in some capacity. And these are, a mixture. There are pure crypto native Web3 builders, but the majority of them are Web2 game people that say, whoa, this actually adds a lot of value to my stack and brings value to my users. And I can beat my competition if I start using this first in a better way. And SKALE, as we all know, has zero gas fees and a frictionless experience. And so it was really well received. And similar story in LA at Outer Edge. It was awesome. So just really, really great. We're excited to do more of those. But okay. So, and for those of you, I think we're already, wondering, we're already 20 minutes in, but this is strategic. A lot of your questions address the updates I just gave. So, but Stan, do you want to weigh in too and just kind of give a high level before we get into the specific AMA questions?
Yeah, basically, from the point of view of engineering, we just released 2.1. Last week, we completed update of the entire network. And I think this time the update actually went much better. When we did the previous update, there was some, hiccups and crashes and everything. This time the update went really smoothly. And this 2.1 update is a big thing for us because pretty much completes the original vision of how the network should run. All of the core features have been implemented, all of the cryptography, all of the security, everything has been done. Also, lots of bugs have been fixed. So the system is very stable now, and the chains are working really great. I think independent people are saying that that's by far the fastest, and the fastest in both in terms of the performance and the time to finality Ethereum compatible blockchain. So we have it now. And obviously engineering has more time now, so we're working on release 2.1.1. which is gonna release SKALE Oracle and something which is called SKALE Connect, pretty much ability to use information from other blockchains. For instance, you can vote on SKALE based on NFT, which is stored somewhere on ETH mainnet. So that's called SKALE Connect, and that's almost done. So I think engineering for it is gonna be complete in several days, and then we're gonna have a month for QA. And then we release SKALE Connect and also move to 1.2.20. So that's SKALE 2.1.1. And then we are also working now on SKALE 2.2. For 2.2, the major feature is fast token transfers. The token transfers for 2.2 are going to be much, much faster compared to the previous release, especially token transfers inside SKALE network. So inside SKALE network, you'll be able to transfer tokens from one chain to another within seconds, several seconds, pretty much. So that's 2.2. And then pretty much, I think the core network has been built. So we are thinking about new things. And as Jack mentioned, definitely this big mega chain that we're going to release is going to be the next big thing for us. We still didn't release the name for it, but it's going to be a very powerful chain, very powerful. We're going to make it as powerful as we can, run it on very powerful computers and make it really high throughput. And this chain is also going to get rolled into Ethereum mainnet using rollups, ZK rollups. And we're also working on this part. I'm going to talk about this later. And so basically the idea is going to be super powerful. We want to be the most powerful Ethereum compatible chain, a single chain. And the security of the chain is going to be ultimately rolled fully into Ethereum mainnet. And then later, once we have ZK for this super powerful chain, we're going to also move this ZK technology to the rest of our chains. So that's pretty much the focus. Coming from the point of view that we already have our medium chains, which are kind of our workhorses in the sense that they run DApps, but some of our customers are asking for a very powerful chain, a single chain, and they're also asking for the security of ETH mainnet. So to satisfy those customers, we're going to have this super powerful chain.
Awesome. And hey, I want to give a little more color on some of the process here that Stan's talking about. So when Stan talked about the upgrade went smoother, the reason why it went smoother is so we as a core team don't upgrade anything. All right. We don't run a single server. So if you think about it, you have this whole network of people and companies that run validator nodes. And so they need to upgrade the systems. But if they all upgrade at the same time and they're offline at the same time, they can hurt, the way chains function. And so what happened is they coordinated to upgrade in a kind of slower, more coordinated manner so that chains always, and this is just, it's a reality of any proof of stake network that has a, BFT consensus. You need to always have 2/3 of the nodes up and running at any given time. And even though they might be down for a second while they're upgrading, if that second's gone and they're not there together, well, the chain's not functioning. So it was really cool to see that validator community come together to have like an optimized coordination. Scale's also the only, I think, there's maybe Polkadot as well, but not in the EVM world, but the only EVM network that has a large number of chains. There's already 20 connected or 18 connected Scale chains by one validator network, right? And so it was really cool to see that happen. And also 2.1.1, this release. So one, hey, we achieved the original vision and goal all the way back in October 2020 when the network went live. But now around the token and around the process of the token, there's always going to be evolution and growth of the technology. And so it was awesome to see 2.1.1 come together. Things are going to be more stable and fast. And I think you'll get a chance to see it. And I think that's probably a good segue into the first question, which I'm going to call out Jonas here, who is one of our favorite, community members. He's always active on Telegram. He's never afraid to ask tough questions other people are thinking. And I appreciate that, because if someone's thinking a tough question and they say it, that's good, because there's probably a lot of people thinking that. And so I think I see that like constructive criticism as value add, because it gives the project an opportunity to speak up. So the question is, the current TPS for the medium chain is approximately 400. I know Exord's running on testnet, but why did you ask them to slow down the load and decrease their chain to TPS 20? Is it because those transactions consume more gas compared to regular transactions and you need to do more technical adjustments? And what's going on with their mainnet, implementation? So I'll take first cut, then I want Stan to talk with this. And we picked this question because I think it really it's an educational point to talk about blockchain and scale. And so if you think about a transaction, like let's think about it eating, right? Let's say you could eat 20 Cheerios per second. Okay, Cheerios are small. And the same things with the blockchain transaction size. Like typical Ethereum transaction is small. And so when you think about TPS, you're looking at kind of the average transaction. Okay, I'm sending you some tokens, or I'm executing a basic smart contract. But what if it was a sandwich? Could you eat 20 sandwiches a second? No. And so the transaction size is an element of throughput, okay? And so if we could do 400 transactions per second in multi-transaction mode of, eating Cheerios, which is a normal transaction, we can't do 400 sandwiches, okay? It's like the quantity but the reality is it's, blockchains aren't food, they're computational load, and the computational load is heavier. When it's heavier, you can do less. You can see that in the gas size, okay? And then number two, Exord is getting ready to launch. They're running live, but they've moved back over into a test environment. One, to test different things with Scale, and to test 2.1.1, and also to test their own things, or to implement their own changes. But that will be moving back to mainnet. And from my understanding, their token is going to be going live. And it's all going to be functioning very well. And their desire to rate limit is more, again, about how much can the system eat at one given time. And no matter what, if you overload it, it will have capacity issues. So Stan, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, it's a really interesting question about XORD, because XORD is an example of an application that it's impossible to run this application on anything except Scale, because XORD is not only they have lots of transactions. Just for some people that don't know what XORD does, it essentially analyzes every tweet. Let's say they analyze Twitter, so they take every tweet. And there is a basically it's decentralized AI network, which analyzes those tweets using AI. And there are many applications of this. One of the applications is fake news, basically filtering out fake news. You also can do some financial signals, do things like how consumers think, whether they like a particular brand or not, all kinds of big data. Essentially, I would say in a simple word, it's decentralized big data and AI. They take Twitter, they take social network, they take every tweet, and they kind of analyze it and vote on it. So there's this process where they essentially post every tweet to Scale. And the question then, it's not only the transactions, not only lots of transactions, but they also take lots of storage. I think I talked yesterday to one of our engineers. They said that it's about one of the networks they're running is taking about 2 gigabytes of data, storing about 2 gigabytes of data per day on Scale. So that's definitely impossible to do with any other Ethereum compatible network. You can't store 2 gigabytes of data per day on Ethereum. That would be probably billions of dollars, I think. So they're storing lots of data. And so they initially ran on 2.0. And when they ran their things on 2.0, some things were not perfect because they exposed some more bugs. In particular, when someone runs and stores many bytes of data, stores lots of data in our network. So if you fix those bugs, and now we have 2.1. So XORD is running way better now with 2.1 than with 2.0. It runs both on our mainnet, also runs on some of our test networks. But they are a unique application in the sense that this is the first ever application which actually has, they have, I think, currently tens of thousands of agents, and they're connecting to our network. And the agents also issue lots of read requests. So another problem that we've seen with XORD, not a problem, but just a performance requirements, that in some cases they were sending hundreds of thousands of read requests per second to our network, which actually, it's kind of bad and good, because the good thing is that essentially they pushed us to the limit where, frankly, we didn't even know that we would be pushed to such a limit in terms of performance. So XORD is a fantastic application because it's totally new class of applications with so much data and so many transactions, so many read requests. So because of all of these things, we've been kind of moving XORD around and sometimes telling them to send a little less transactions, especially when you had 2.0. But we're working together with them to, first of all, now we have 2.1, right? And second, I think pretty much inevitably at some point, an application like that will need more than one chain, because if you have your Facebook account, right, and you upload a photo on your Facebook account, actually Facebook has 1 million servers, and your photos, your images are one of those servers. So it feels like Facebook is a single site. In reality, it's 1 million servers. Very much in the same way, I think applications like XORD will ultimately need to have many chains, not only one chain, not even 2 chains, but maybe 10 chains or 100 chains, right? Because they're actively storing data, and a single chain has a fixed amount of data storage. So this, I think, is all very interesting, and I think people don't understand how much of an interesting application XORD is, and we are going to be working with them this year to make them more and more productive and to send more and more transactions. But I think the silver lining about XORD is that working with a massive application like XORD, we can improve our product. So if someone else comes later and wants to run something else, like a decentralized social network or decentralized Uber or this or that, something massive, we're actually going to be ready. So that's why actually our engineers are excited about working with Xorda, because yes, they do actually put lots of load on our network, but actually also it's really exciting to see an application like that. Again, and the answer again is that Xorda is not just many transactions, but it's lots of storage. They're storing data, and it's also lots of reading, lots of read requests. That's why it was unique for us to. It is unique for us to work with them.
So Stan, I think that's a good segue into the next question from Rad10. What are some of the most exciting use cases or applications that you envision for the SKALE network, and how do you see it contributing to the broader blockchain ecosystem?
I think, what we thought always, what we hoped for always was that, like, at some point, blockchain needs to be adopted by people, right? Like ChatGPT, like AI, conversational AI was there for 20 years. People tried to do this thing when you talk to AI, but people didn't really use it. They were just experimental products, right? But suddenly this thing which was experimental became mainstream. Everyone is like using ChatGPT now. Hundreds of millions of people is using it, right? Are using it. So with blockchain, I think it's still a bit of an experimental phase, because you don't see people in a subway. When you take a subway, you don't see people near you like playing blockchain games. Well, really, right? They play regular games, or they talk to ChatGPT. But blockchain is still in this kind of nascent experimentation phase. So what we hope for is that this new market cycle will be actually mass adoption of blockchain, because the previous market cycle was lots of experimentation. I think blockchain games in the previous market cycles, in the previous market bull run, were definitely very experimental. They were hard to play. And as far as the decentralized finance applications were concerned, there were like thousands of people using these applications. Again, very few users. So I hope what we're going to see during the next market cycle is finally that there is going to be a mass adoption of blockchain. And Xorda is an example of that. Another example would be if a major game, a real game, not a blockchain, but a real game which may have already like tens of millions of users, decide to use like NFTs inside of this game, right? We want to see this from these huge gaming companies, just the traditional ones. And once this happens, there will be this adoption of blockchain, people will immediately need SKALE, because you can't run millions of users on a single blockchain. In fact, even the example of Xorda shows us that once you have like 10,000 real users, you need to have many blockchains. So we're actually really hopeful for that the next market cycle is going to be about mass adoption of blockchain. And if there are 10 billion people in this world, mass adoption of blockchain pretty much exactly means that there will be many blockchains, because all of these people will need to be served by blockchains. So that's what we hope for. And the good thing is that we have pretty much everything ready now. So the system works, it's stable. We still have some bugs. We are working on performance improvements, but overall, the thing is doing pretty well even the way it runs now. So we're excited if there will be more projects in the future that want to get to the mass adoption of blockchain. Then we are ready to serve those projects.
By the way, every single bug, every single issue, every single feature is publicly there for anybody to read in GitHub. SKALE is fully open source. We are fully transparent. And one, it's in GitHub. Two, if you want to go and like test and deploy and do things to help, please. Like, this is, the more contributors we can get, the better. I met someone at GDC last week who we're under NDA, so I can't tell you what company he works for, but one of the biggest companies in gaming. And he has a product that he's built to battle test games. And what he does is it has 100 players multi-playing concurrently. And he calls it the blockchain breaker. And he got in, and it was great. He went in, we didn't even talk to him. He got the code, he deployed it in his own environment. He connected to the RPC port and IP address of his environment, and he tested it. And he's like, wow, he's like, this is right. And he said all these other chains are breaking, and SKALE worked, and SKALE did this, and this. And I say that because one, hey, it was really a compliment for SKALE, but two, it's all open. He on his own was able to do all of this stuff. So if you're a developer, if you want to get involved, please, check out the GitHub. And if you're not a developer and you want to know what we're fixing or what the community's fixing, it's all there for you to see. Stan, another question that's like a really hot topic right now. There's a lot of talk about, generalized AI and where AI is going with large language models and other things. And AI kind of, if anyone reads Super Intelligence, if you're interested in AI, and Stan and I worked in AI for 8 years, or 9 years. Stan worked in AI for a long time too. When Stan and I met in 2017, Stan had all these brilliant ideas about how AI and blockchain are going to come together. And all these people we talked about, oh, I don't think, they just didn't get it. But Stan, now that like in Super Intelligence, you read it, AI goes like this, and all of a sudden it starts hockey sticking. So we're seeing each release of ChatGPT just get faster and faster. Stan, what do you think is going to happen with AI and blockchain? And I mean, what are some of your theories? Because I feel like some of your thoughts, I'm seeing these things come together, and I think you have an interesting take.
Actually, yeah, that's an interesting question, because we actually have like an experimental, like a pet project within Scale, which is called SKALE ML. So we actually can run AI within smart contracts. And so we had this project for a while. We were thinking about making a product feature out of it for a while. So then before the ChatGPT hockey stick, so to speak, we were thinking about how one can use blockchain, AI in blockchain. And one of the very trivial ways, if you have a neural network running inside of your smart contract, the neural network can differentiate a bot from a human. And by asking questions, maybe by generating some capture, all these kind of things. But which is a really important point now, because with all the blockchain games, probably many of you people know that, like people generate bots, and these bots go get airdrops or they play games to get tokens. So there's lots of bots actually, like in blockchain. So fighting these bots, using the AI to fight those bots was one idea, which I think is really real, like easy to implement. But then now there's another dimension with ChatGPT. People asking questions more like, okay, you have ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is trained in a certain way, and it's restricted in a certain way, it's allowed in a certain way. When you train a neural network and you don't restrict it in any way, you get sometimes very surprising results, and some really sensitive results people don't want to get. So ChatGPT is very filtered. But other people say, okay, we want our network. We want is it unfiltered network, or we want the network filtered in a different way or tweaked in a different way. So lots of people are talking about, instead of using ChatGPT, where I don't know who trained this network, how they trained it, and which parameters they used. Instead of that, having more like a decentralized family of trained network, and like I can train the network and then someone else can use it, having more like decentralized peer-to-peer crowdsourced type of a system. And for this blockchain is perfect, I think. So you could think about something like someone trains a network and we upload this network into Scale as a smart contract. And then it's essentially ChatGPT running on Scale, but it's ChatGPT has been generated by some user. And then you can talk to this network, and can be another network, and this network, and that network. So it actually opens up lots of possibilities. So we are kind of thinking about speeding up this thing about SKALE ML. We didn't decide yet when we're going to release it, but it actually was almost done, at least from the prototype point of view. So it's not so hard to actually run neural networks inside the EVM.
And hey, Stan, just to call out, in 2019 at ETH Boston at Harvard University, a team of people built with SKALE ML. They won a hack award and they built an image recognition algorithm inside of a Scale chain that could detect certain types of events, and it was it was actually implemented. It was really cool to see that. And people are like, what in the hell, what are you doing? AI, now everyone loves AI. Yeah, I feel like we should, as a community, we should push to get that re-released, or because before we couldn't find anyone that was interested in building on it. We were AI geeks. We're like, yeah, this is awesome. And now I think, there's so many use cases, and it's just, just booming. And there's so many companies being funded that want to have a more decentralized access point for the AI.
We should do it faster, definitely, Jack. We need to, it's happening so fast. I think ChatGPT is happening so fast. Everyone is just trying to keep up. Yesterday, Elon Musk said they want to postpone it by 6 months, the scientific advances and everything. But I think...
by the way, I just got access to Bard, the Bard demo, the Google Bard. I don't think it's as good, but it's, these things are going to be popping up everywhere.
And I think that's definitely true that we need to, because we have the thing, actually. People even did demos on it. We just need to think when we release it. Because the funny thing is that running the neural network is not computationally hard. Training is hard. So to train the network, you need to have the things like thousands of GPU cards and stuff.
You train offsite. You can take the trained models and implement them within SKALE storage, essentially. Right?
And there are now people are devising now models which are open source, which are very much competing models to ChatGPT, to GPT-3 and 4. So there are already open source models we could use at scale to actually run inside the smart EVM. But I think the real interesting possibility is that letting everyone build those models and then deploying them inside EVM. And then if it's run a decentralized way, then you kind of also solve lots of legal problems, because if you get a response from this network, you talk to the network, you don't talk to the centralized entity, you talk to a decentralized network. So from the legal perspective, it's very different, how easy it will be to censor the things and change them. It's interesting, really interesting direction, I think.
So I think, hey, here's a call to the community, a call to action. If you're a builder and you're building something in AI, if you know someone who is, SKALE has something that's been built since 2019 where pre-trained models can run in SKALE file storage. That was actually the reason why SKALE file storage was created. If you are one of these people or know them, send them to SKALE. We'd love to talk to them. And kind of, I guess you could say, relaunch something that's already been built for a long time. But yeah, it's exciting. I think, the use cases are just going to be flourishing. It's all about use cases in AI, in my opinion. Stan, next question. So there's been a lot of talk about, this is from Jay. There's a lot of talk about layer 3s. Is SKALE a layer 3 network? So how would you describe that? Because the new thing is layer 3, and it's app chains and modular networks, and which, we've been doing this stuff for a long time. So what do you think about that?
I think if you ask majority people, I think people ultimately, a particular definition is right or wrong, depending on how people call it on Twitter. I think when people say layer 3, what they mean, I think, they understand that what they thought was layer 2 is still expensive, right? If you have Ethereum, you pay per transaction $1, and you move to a roll-up and you pay 10 cents, you still pay 10 cents, and these 10 cents may go up to $1. So people understood the very simple, I think, thing is that if you want mass adoption, if you want billions of people using blockchains, then you can't have transaction fees, because on Facebook, you don't pay for every click. On Google, you don't pay for every search. All of the internet, you don't pay for things. So if we want the mass adoption, actually transaction fees are #1 problem, because if people have to pay, they don't want to use it. And if it's free, then people use it. So I think if people, when people say layer 3, what they mean is that they understand that during the previous market cycle, the goal wasn't achieved. The goal of actually people using blockchain, the mass adoption was not achieved. And if people say we need something new, and let's call it layer 3, then we are layer 3, I think.
Yeah, I mean, because it's almost horizontal scalability has finally been accepted. And horizontal scalability means adding more chains instead of vertical scalability where you have a chain and then you have off-chain methods. The reason why off-chain methods are not that effective is because you still have a constrained capacity of the blockchain space. The blockchain, even if you have like all the world's computing, if it still has to settle back down to one chain, that one chain has a finite amount of volume that it can do. Or capacity to process transactions. If you have lots of chains, you can keep stacking up the vertical and the horizontal together, and then you basically have this like intermediary layer, like roll-up layer, and you have these app chains that are settling back down or settling all the way back to the mainnet. But at the end of the day, I think it's another cut and take on app chains or modular chains or multi-chain networks. And when Scale implements ZK, we are going to have all the different ways to skin the cat, so to speak, we will have in terms of security. But, I think too, that some of these things are exercises in complexity. At the end of the day, if you have the security of one validator network, that's the same validator nodes that run on the Ethereum mainnet, sometimes it's an effort to be, most, it's almost an effort in futility. So we're going to see but hey, we're building ZK. I think ZK is going to be incredibly, efficient and effective and for higher security use cases. But at the end of the day, I do think that for gaming and Web3, what we have for Scale right now doesn't even need ZK at all. It's secure, it's fast, it's zero gas fees for the end users, it's cost effective. And, but it's interesting to see these narratives develop and form. Okay. All right. Let's see here. We've got 10 minutes. So, hey, Sydney. So another question. This is from Mitch Softster. And, we've already talked about GDC, but I think wants to go a little deeper. Do conventional game developers have an interest in Web3 gaming? And what were their impressions about Scale? So you were at the booth, you talked to a lot of people. What was kind of your feeling of the vibe of traditional Web2 devs into Web3? You talked a little bit about it, but please go deeper.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think we've started to see the shift from traditional Web2 to Web3, and their interest is definitely there. I think it's just actually being able to show them on the ground. So we had demos from Empire's Gambit, 0x Battleground, Prospectors NFT. And so you were able to show them the games in real time and see how it doesn't even look like you're using blockchain technology. And I think that's the whole point too, is that we're creating these invisible Web3 gaming experiences. So by just showing them alone the games, I think that was a huge shift in interest and wanting to, be interested and learn more about Scale. And I think that's where we got a lot of leads too. So I think just showing them and giving them a visual representation did go a long way. So that was just from my perspective. And I know many other people from the Scale booth also said the same thing. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think that the tide's turning. And, and another good question from, who is this from? This is from Cinderella_AH. What strategy will you implement to bring non-crypto natives into your ecosystem? How do you keep a balance between developing the technology and improving, I'm going to just say, security of the network to make that more compliant question? And that matches the way we view the network value is all about security. How do we keep improving the security of the network? So my quick thoughts, and then Stan and Sydney, I'd love both of you to weigh in here. This is all a race to see who can get non-natives. Okay. Go to DappRadar and, and by the way, I have this talk with people out there like, oh yeah, your competition's so far ahead. I'm like, well, go to DappRadar and see how many applications they have that have more than 5,000 daily active wallets. And, go look and see how many users use the 20th largest game on DappRadar? Go look at a specific chain and see how many users or wallets are on the 10 or 20th largest chain across all of these different. I mean, these numbers are like abysmal. These numbers, there's like, more people in a high school classroom than the 50th largest or like the 20th largest game on, most of these chains. And nothing against, any chains or where the industry is. But the point is we need to get the masses in. We need to get the normal users in, and we need to bring value to them in a way that makes sense. And it's not about the complexity or the tech. Okay. When was the last time, you ever played a video game, and you're like, wow, this Unity kicks ass. I'm using Unity. You don't know what the game engine is. You just play the way, and gas fees are subsidized. And that's why there's instant finality. That's why we've made the trade-offs and, in the design is to make that happen. So I think it is a race for that market. And if you're not in the lead of the crypto native market, doesn't really matter. Even though, like I said, we're already doing 1/6 of transactions, L2 transactions. We're really focused as a community on getting to in front and supporting those developers that are building for the large scale. So Stan, Sydney, please weigh in on that. How do we get crypto non-natives, and why is that important? Hey, Stan, you're on mute.
I can just say really fast that I think, you can ask a question, why during the previous market cycle, during the previous boom, right? Why the crypto was so isolated? In a sense that no one cared about like having millions of people. People cared about Uniswap getting from like $2 billion TVL to $20 billion TVL while having 1,000 users. So the TVL is actually very much a mark of exclusivity of blockchain. No one cared about users. People just cared about the small group of people putting lots of money inside. And I think that there was really no focus actually on having lots of users. So the marketing dollars weren't going into like bringing users. And so my hope is that what we see now is that people kind of are trying to use the same system this time, again, like creating these clones of Uniswap, or again, like having lots of this TVL and things, but doesn't work, right? We see that the crypto winter kind of ended, and now we see like some good things happening, some interesting projects, but overall, I think in the industry, we still need people to realize that the industry needs to change, and the industry needs to go after this non-native crypto users. And I think if the industry starts talking about this problem, like you read things like Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, all of these publications, if they start talking about this problem, then actually it's not so hard to attract people, because people, I think in general, are interested in blockchain. You just talk to like a regular person and just ask about blockchain. People are excited, they want to know about the things. So you just think the industry needs to start putting more attention into people that don't have lots of money, so you can't really get lots of TVL from them, but you can get them to use blockchain. So I hope this happens during this market cycle.
Yeah, it's Stan. I want to give some supporting evidence to that. So I'm looking here at DappRadar. Yesterday, there were 39,450 users on Uniswap. That did 35,000 transactions. Those numbers are not even, if you have an iOS app, like you can't even get a pre-seed round with that. Those numbers, or a seed round probably. You could get pre-seed, but but they have massive TVL, and the TVL is real, and Uniswap provides a huge value. And I love Uniswap. I'd love for Uniswap to Scale to be on, or Uniswap to be on Scale someday. It's not a knock against them. It's just a knock against the fact that they're not servicing the mass market yet, and because the use cases aren't there. And so we've been tacking towards, servicing that mass market. And I think what Stan's getting at, the next wave of growth, these waves of growth are always around real traction. And the next traction points, in my belief, will be users and transaction volume, and not, TVL is important, but not just TVL. Sydney, what do you think?
Yeah, I think education is something that's huge, especially in this industry. I think people especially have lost trust within this industry too, with just all the different macro crypto events that have taken place within the last year. So, I mean, we have a ton of thought leadership on our blog that really breaks down very technical topics within the industry, like ZK, validators, and Jack does a really good job at breaking that down. But yeah, I think education is going to be huge in order to adopt a lot of these non-native crypto users or potential users one day. So that's just my perspective personally. But I do think we have so many resources available for people wanting to learn more, and the tech, it not being too daunting or intimidating. And Jack, you do a really great job, and so do you, Stan, at just breaking down all these really technical topics and terms within our industry. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sydney. So hey, I just want to close with some last thoughts here and just say Scale's an open, decentralized project, and we want to grow the community. If you want to be here helping, being part of the ambassador team, if you want to, they're actually going to be more generalized community groups like a DeFi SWAT team and a gaming SWAT team, and people that are just getting involved. And if you're a token holder, guess what? You're an owner of the network. And so we want to start becoming, just continue to just grow and grow and grow. And one thing Uniswap and has done well, I'll call out, is they've done a great job with community. I think they've gotten a really amazing voting system and grant program, and there's just a lot of people that are participating and submitting to the forum. And you're going to see that's one of the goals for Scale, is to keep growing that. And so all of you, welcome you to get even more involved, and let's just keep growing the community element of this project.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one thing that I wanted to mention for those who are part of Scale's Crew 3 community, the code word from today's AMA is finality. Awesome. Well, thank you, Stan and Jack. This has been an awesome AMA, and thank you to the community for watching. We do these once a month, so we will see you next month. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.